I think universally, let me describe it by saying there are two types of issues in the world. The first issue is what is called problem to be solved. Okay, so if you have mechanical fault with your car, you can sell to a mechanic, he can fix it. That's called a problem to be solved. The second type of issues in the world is called polarities to be managed. Polarities to be managed, it means one North Pole versus a South Pole. You cannot remove the North Pole, because if you remove the North Pole, you remove the South Pole, the world will go out of orbit. So the two poles will always be there. There's always extremes that exist. Take the example, if you live in a society like Malaysia, I'll bring it down closer to home now. Take Malaysia, we have many, many different races here, many different ethnic groups, we have many different religions. If we take those issues that are polarities within a religious context and also an ethnic context, and simply say, my extreme point is the answer to this, to solve this problem, then I think you have a huge difficulty. So that is why I believe that if it is a polarity to be managed, you don't solve that. You manage it. How do you manage it? You manage by having moderate position. You don't take extreme positions. And how do you moderate it? Compromises has to be made. We will have to live in compromises. You cannot insist there's only one way to do it, and that means my way to do it and yours cannot be if we take two different positions. So we all must come to the center. That means we have to moderate extreme views to come to the center. That, I think, really encapsulates what we needed to do. I think as a start, it would be very useful for the leaders of the community to start by talking about the good thing about the other communities. Okay. You know, so I use the word to celebrate. I think when you start to celebrate what others are doing, then you begin to, first of all, you understand what's good about them. In fact, when we talk about One Malaysia, the original idea of One Malaysia was like this. Malaysians' attitude, most of us probably think that there are people at level 1, that means we tolerate one another for our differences. Tolerate only, that's the most basic. Yes. And if you're at level 1, we were encouraging people to move to level 2, to accept the diversity, the differences in polarities, differences in opinion. And if you're already level 2, you encourage them to move to level 3, which is celebrate the differences. That means to say, wow, I really like what you are doing in your community. What I really like what you are doing in your religion, because this is fantastic what you're doing. And so if you start doing that, that I think is a fantastic start. So you get the leaders to start doing it. Maybe write position paper on it. And start, the newspapers can write the story. The associations can do it. You cannot begin by improving things unless you introduce the light. I call it like that. I don't think we should curse the darkness. We should introduce the light. But if you want to curse the darkness, you will have a tremendous feedback. So I think when you start with this, you introduce the light. Don't curse the darkness. So that means, how do I talk about the light? Talk about the good things about the other communities and other religions. And if you start talking about that, you are introducing the light. And eventually, the more and more the light there is, and more the darkness will fade away. But if you start by arguing about the negativities, that can work, but it tends to bring a lot of bitterness and hatred. I think the biggest challenge to deal with this is the challenge where we have the silent majority not voicing their opinion. The problem today in Malaysia is that the minority are very loud, and they are the ones who put their noise, particularly in the social media, with ubiquity of social media, with proliferation of social media. And if the silent majority remains silent, then I think we cannot drown out the views of the loud minority.